Now, as I told you, which is the world's oldest federation? So hence you should understand I will not discuss in detail about American Revolution because that's part of that's part of the world history. But we have to link it to the federal angle. I'll just tell you the core of the American Revolution. Basic you have to understand is by 1770s, what you so-called call it as US now, there was nothing called as US, it was just Americas, you can tell, American continent. You had almost 13 kind of areas ruled by British, mostly in the north and eastern part. Means where you have now what? The New York, Washington, Texas, Miami, those parts are where British were ruling some areas. Over a period of time, the people who were living there, they rebelled against British saying that we want our independence, we don't want to be ruled by you. Though they had people from across the European countries who came and settled there, from Germany, from everybody you have there. And we were ruled by British, they rebelled. That's what you famously got as what? American Revolution. They got the independence also within just a span of 4 or 5 years of movement, they got the independence. What happened here? All these 13 so-called small areas or countries at that time, they had all got united. Now once they got the independence, now the question came, should all these 13 countries, should they get together or should they become separate countries? Each one should become separate country or not? Getting the point? You all have got the independence, you have two options now, what they can do? Each one of them can become separate country also. Or what you can do? You can get together and form a big country. Now what practically you think? If you get together, geographically you will become what? Large. Obvious it is. Resources that you will get overall, more. Population, more. You can have big army, relatively small army. Relatively big army. Economy will become relatively strong. Hence what they decided, that let's get together. Let's get together. So that is what you call it as, it was a federation formed by, so get together means obviously what? Integration. All these 13 they all signed an agreement, some conditions, saying that okay, these are the conditions on which we are entering into the agreement. If in case we are not happy, what we'll do? We'll get out of it. That is how it is. That's why what they tell is, from 1782 to 1787, actually US was not a federation, it was a confederation. In other words, who were strong? Those regional units were strong because they felt that we are just getting together for some purpose so that we form a big group. If you are not happy, what we'll do? We'll get out of the group. That was the agreement. But in 1787, they made US into from a confederation, it was made literally federation. In other words, national government was made powerful. But there was still a question pending in US, at that time, 1787, that now you have written that in a federation, what you will not have? No right to secede. But these are now we are writing. We are talking about which years? At that time, there was no clarity as to whether the states or what you call it as the regional units should have a right to secede or not. There was no clarity. They still felt, okay, it's ultimately an agreement. We have signed an agreement. We are staying together. Okay, we'll make national government powerful. But they had felt that almost till 100 years, till 1860s, they felt, if you are not happy, we'll get out of the agreement. It's ultimately an agreement was the point. But then what happened, 100 years later, not exactly, you had something called as, what? Civil war in US. For that, what you have to understand is, subdivide. Northern states of US. So what are they? By that time I am telling, by when? Industrially developed. And what were they? They were against slavery. Fine. South states, what you call it as, if you look at geography of US, you'll understand. Miami, Texas, those ones. So what were they based on? Plantation based. Plantation means what? In US, cotton one, rubber one, all those things. Pro-slave. Pro means what? They wanted slavery to continue. Fine. Now, before this, what you have to understand, if you know, Because if you understand the entire context, you will understand the obviously you know that in US you find so many African Americans, the so-called black Americans, all those things. How did they come to US or whatever so-called slave labor, slave trade we call as triangular slave trade. Means what the so-called European powers, they used to get the raw materials from American plantations. That plantations also most of the Europeans only used to own. The so-called, as just now I told you, the cotton plantation, rubber plantation or whatever, so many things were there. Get the raw materials from there. Using it, because remember by that time Europe was getting industrially powerful. First industrial revolution, you might have heard all those things. They were getting all those things. They used to manufacture them, sell the goods in Africa, but in turn by whom? By the people as slaves. You sell it, obviously you have to get something back. Buy them, buy as slave laborers. Take them into US or so-called Americas. Put them in the plantations. Get them work there. Get the raw materials. This is the slave trade. If you have heard the stories like what? Almost, I don't know the exact numbers, I have forgotten, at least 1/3 of the people almost died in the ships itself. Means what? When they were, you have to carry them, right? Imagine, let's say for example, from south somewhere, from Zimbabwe or Nigeria, all those things, you have to carry them to America. Now it's all fine because you have so many the aircrafts and all those things. Imagine in the 18th century, 19th century, how do you have to carry? Ships, the only point is then, and obviously, lot of people used to just die in the, journey itself. That was his 1/3 one, fine? Whatever, that's all not necessary one. So this continued for a long time, and then by 1860s, a huge issue came up because by 1860s already what had happened across the world, there was a very, very strong argument against slavery. People had started to feel that slavery is inhuman. How do you treat someone like that? Because when you say slave means what? Literally the assumption is that you are a property of your owner. They can get any type of work done from you. The assumption was that you can't think for yourself, so hence your owner will take care of you. Now child labor, pregnant women labor, all those things are norms at that time. But gradually the human right concept, all those things had emerged. So in US, Abraham Lincoln, all of them, by that time Abraham Lincoln was the president. He wanted to abolish slavery. But what did the South states tell? Look at it, they are still plantation based. So hence what they wanted? They said, no, we want slavery to continue. Now the issue came out, but that they say that, South told, see, anyhow we have signed the agreement and then we entered the deal. That will be part of yours. Now what they told? We'll sign the agreement, we'll breach the agreement and we'll get out of it. So they said in simple terms, South states demanded right to secede. That's what led to the civil war. Why is it called a civil war? Because here someone else is not coming and waging a war against you. Who are fighting? People are fighting between themselves. So the North states was led by the US army, led by of course the President Abraham Lincoln. South states had their own army. Now finally, with this war, so who won? North states won. In other words, what happened to slavery? Abolished. After this, the US Supreme Court clarified, because why did you have all this problem? Because the South states argued that it's an agreement, and what they have? They have the right to secede. Later the Supreme Court of US clarified that in US, states will not have the right to secede. That is when the definition of federalism changed. Because you see now whatever you wrote, the definition is today's definition. What we are writing is at that time what was there, how it changed. So whatever you are writing, the definition was given by US Supreme Court. In a federation, what you will not have? No right to secede. This came after which one? Civil War. Who clarified it? The US Supreme Court clarified in US context. That became a global definition also. That's why in Indian context, if you have seen, in the original constitution itself, we have never mentioned the word federal. If you look at it, you have the words sovereign socialist, socialist was not there at that time, let's say sovereign democratic republic. Why don't you have the term federal written there? Because there was still confusion about when you write federal there, will you have what option to get out of the group or not? That was a doubt. Imagine with US with this level of diversity, if they have the problem of secession, imagine India's diversity. For this only because of economy, this is not based on culture. Imagine India's diversity and then think. Hence, beginning itself they clarified, you will not have the right to secede. Don't even think about it. That's why we are not even mentioning the term federalism there. It was a deliberately chosen decision. Because the definition of federalism was confusing. It was still not clear. What if, like in US, South states demanded right to secede? What if in India also people start demanding right to secede? That's the reason it was not mentioned. Even today you don't find any term related to federalism in the constitution. It's not there. India is described as what? Union of states, in which they have clearly clarified that India is not formed as a result of treaty or agreement. How was US formed? Treaty. Second, India, they have clearly told that you will not have the right to secede. Like how in US they had demanded right to secede. Getting an idea why it happened, all those things. Typical lessons learned from US growth. Got it? And US is a federation based on integration or disintegration. All of them got together. Fine. Similarly, you have another one. Federalism or federation based on disintegration. Disintegration means what? Let's say you have a large country. So then gradually what you keep doing them? See here, the country overall will remain the same. What are you doing here? Subdivide them into regions for better administration. The world's best example for this is, or the first example for this is Canada. Canada was a unitary system which gradually became, means the area was the same, gradually they created provinces. India follows Canada model. Look at it, for example, simple. You had Andhra Pradesh, now you had what? Break, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh. If you don't know, in the entire northeast it was actually only one state called as Assam. When we became independent, there was only one state in northeast, Assam. Today you have 7 states. Now what is it? You're breaking the region into small states. In Uttar Pradesh, if you have heard, there is a demand to break Uttar Pradesh into 4 states. Earlier it was only called as Bombay state. Then later it became Maharashtra, Gujarat. Earlier it was only MP. Then MP, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh. I think you're getting the point. All of this is what? India is based on Canada's model of disintegration. Disintegrate means not break the country. What are you doing? Country will remain the same. Within that you create small regions. And so that's why they famously tell that India follows Canadian model of federalism. Okay, at least you got the broad idea, right?